4, 3, 2, 1. Xbox One is on sale!
On November 22, 2013, Microsoft launched their most ambitious console to date, the Xbox One. Trying to cover more than just gaming, it combined all of your entertainment into a single system, hence the name. But despite its lengthy feature list, or perhaps because of it, it has generally been seen as a big disappointment. During the same time, for example, the PlayStation 4 sold over twice as much, and the Switch quickly caught up, even despite its late start. Although maybe we shouldn't compare apples and oranges. With the Series X, Microsoft is trying to get back into the ring. Although seen by most as a mere update over its predecessor, and clearly being overshadowed by its more flashy counterpart, the PlayStation 5, the Series X might pack a much bigger punch than its unassuming design is giving away. But whether or not this is enough has yet to be seen. What is clear though, is that it is most certainly going to be a very interesting fight. But before we have a look at the new kid on the block, we first have to understand how we got here, because some of the choices that were made are a direct result of the Xbox One's failed ambitions.
For the first time,
You and your TV are going to have a relationship.
It's gonna recognize
My name.
my family,
My movies.
me.
it's gonna remember
all the things I like.
Love.
and really love
We're going to use
groundbreaking technology
and the power of the cloud.
As mentioned in the beginning, the One was an attempt to combine all of your living room entertainment into a single system. Microsoft wanted it to be second only to the TV. Everyone should have one, not just gamers. But this didn't really pan out. Seemingly unaware of similar issues Sony faced with its overly ambitious PlayStation 3, Microsoft set their plan in motion, betting on the 360's success to have established Xbox as a strong enough brand. Potential was certainly there. Fans would buy the system regardless of its additional capabilities, and everyone else would get one after they heard what it could do. But Microsoft had a rough start.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message. If you don't like it.
The requirement to be always online and the lack of backwards compatibility, along with being unable to play secondhand games, made the Xbox One a very unappealing choice. The price didn't help either.
At $499 in the US, and 499 euros in European markets.
Microsoft lost the momentum of the 360 even before they could get the new system to customers. Meanwhile, Sony used the opportunity to convince everyone to join Team Blue.
Thanks.
They knew exactly what Microsoft was in for, because in 2006, they struggled for similar reasons.
PS3 truly is a system to be placed in the center of the living room in homes around the world.
Back then, Sony was at its height, seemingly unstoppable, just like Microsoft after the 360. That ambition led to the PlayStation 3, a kitchen sink with a supercomputer attached to it, and a matching price. Sony knew that if they wanted to win the next round, they would have to deliver exactly what gamers asked for, an uncompromised gaming machine. So the feature set was stripped down and a no-nonsense system was created. It showed both in its design and its marketing. Microsoft quickly realized their mistakes and started to course-correct their strategy, stripping away many of its hallmark features, but also introducing new ones.
I'm pleased to announce Xbox One backward compatibility.
With the final iteration being released in 2017, we almost got the console we wanted at the beginning. This brings us back to the present, and the Series X. From the outside, the Series X looks and feels like the focused gaming monster we asked for. This is, much like the PlayStation 4, a no-nonsense approach. Connectivity-wise, you get the bare minimum, along with an overpriced expansion slot. Gone is the TV in and everything else that's not required, including an optical out. Then there is the design, a stealthy monolithic block of beauty. This is Microsoft at its best, incredibly focused and with details that catch you off guard. Like the green accents on the grille or the fact that the IR receiver is hidden behind the sync button. It's a fantastically looking console and arguably one that will age much better than its competition. Although I must say that I do enjoy the PlayStation 5's looks a lot more at this point in time. It isn't without its faults though. When placed horizontally, the power button can't be rotated, which causes some unnecessary seizures when you look at it. Or the fact that the intake is at the rear of the system, causing the hot air to immediately return to its source, resulting in the Series X getting a bit noisy after just a few hours. But this is more likely a casualty of my own setup than the norm. I do wish though that the startup sound would have changed. But we do get a new boot up sequence. A lot less attention was given to the controller, but in its defense it was already tried and true. Much like how the One X controller changed from the initial launch version, the new controller is a refinement. A bit grippier, a bit clickier, with a new D-pad and the addition of a share button. The current hype might be around the DualSense's haptic feedback, but the Xbox One and therefore the Series controller has had a somewhat similar feature since 2013. It's just that everyone seems to have forgotten about it. But no change is sometimes a good thing, because you can reuse all of your existing peripherals, unlike with the PlayStation 5 where the DualShock 4 only works with PlayStation 4 titles. Similar to the controller, the software suite of Microsoft's latest and greatest hasn't changed much. If you have an Xbox One running with the latest update, you will surely find yourself in a very familiar environment, for better or worse. Granted, the UI has improved since its original inception, and the focus has clearly shifted towards gaming. It's still disappointing to see nothing new here, even the resolution is still capped at 1080p, despite the console's obvious powers. The store got a bigger overhaul just before the launch too, but again, it's still terrible if you ask me. Considering they're trying to make money here, it's a bit ironic on how difficult it is to actually spend any. This leads me perfectly into the next and possibly best feature of the system. I feel that the Series X and its smaller sibling for that matter truly come into their own when being paired with Game Pass. It's not just a giant library that makes it so appealing. It's the way the new consoles enable you to try these games in a way that wasn't possible before. Back in the day, and before I needed extra soft toilet paper, we had game demos, but for some reason, just like my hopes and dreams, they all but disappeared. However, if you count yourself a lucky Game Pass subscriber, you get that try-out feeling back from when you were young. And the titles are great too. For example, every first-party title will be available on Game Pass, launch day. That's a pretty good deal if you ask me. Maybe the lack of exclusives at launch was an intention, a brilliant move by Microsoft's marketing team to lure in new customers towards Game Pass, because there was nothing else to buy. For me, it certainly worked. It led me to explore the library and try out games I normally wouldn't have. But this isn't the only puzzle piece. As mentioned before, Game Pass has been around since 2017. The second part is all about speed. When you boot into a game from standby, for example via Google Assistant, which is pretty cool by the way, the time it takes until you're back in the game is ridiculous. But it's not just a startup. Switching between games is just as fast. Similar to how Netflix altered the way we consume TV shows, consoles like the new Xboxes could change how we play games. Not by inventing new ways to play them, but how we play them. This might sound like a minor thing. I certainly thought so at first. But the reduced loading times changed something else. I found myself casually switching between games, whether it was to cool down or to take a break from a frustrating section, or to squeeze in a quick round before I had to go back to work. In the end, I played more. Not because the games were different or the graphics looked better, but because it was quicker. This was also the first time when it truly felt next gen. Unlike everything else, including 120 FPS, it was something new, something you can't really get anywhere else. And yes, the PlayStation 5 boots just as fast, but its game switching feature functions very differently. Every time you do make the jump, you will have to go through the entire startup sequence of a game. At least that was the case with the games I tried. Lastly, we have backward compatibility. Another feature I didn't think much of at first. But having the option to play games from 4 console generations, albeit limited when it comes to original titles, is kind of amazing. It's surreal looking at a nearly 20-year-old game booting up. But it gets better. With higher resolutions, higher frame rates and sharper looking textures, they play better too. The nostalgia is very real here. It's more than just staring at a 3D model of a console you can't turn on. Putting all of this together paints us a nice picture of what Microsoft is trying to achieve here. The media-centric days are long gone and games have finally taken center stage on Xbox. More so, they've become a permanent experience across all generations. The hardware has become trivial, only to serve the experience, not define it. In many ways, the Series X is an evolution of an Xbox One. With an increased focus towards gaming, it's finally become the system people asked for 7 years ago. But it's much more than that. It's proof that Microsoft doesn't see Xbox as a hardware-centric system anymore. It hasn't for years. It's long moved into making it a platform-agnostic service spanning across as many devices as they can. Supporting this claim even more are the two versions that launched in November. This is a clear statement, saying that the next generation shouldn't be restricted by hardware, even if its marketing tries to tell you otherwise. This is also a very different approach to what Sony is doing with the PlayStation 5, where power is all that matters. You don't get to choose how you want to experience it. The PlayStation 5 is the experience. Only time will tell how this console generation will pan out. The market is due for a big change anyway, and with new players entering the arena, it'll be interesting to see how veterans of this play will deal with the competition. In the end, Microsoft has placed its chess pieces very well over the years. We can certainly hope it'll turn out better than the last time they tried to create a service. Hey, thanks for watching and see you next time, I suppose. Bye!